Hey, how's it going, people? Welcome to the sixth quarter and NBA fan channel from across the pond, from Europe. Basically, for the first video on this channel, we gonna talk about Jayson Tatum and the Celtics because the first game happened between Celtics and Orlando Magic in the playoffs. Obviously, Celtics won, and of course, second game, and I kid you not, is only few hours away as I am recording this, about 5 hours away, right? And there is still no news about Jayson Tatum's status because obviously in the fourth quarter he fell down, he hurt his wrist and everything, and he's currently still listed as doubtful against Orlando Magic in the second game at the TD Garden. So we're gonna talk about all that. Now, first things first. Orlando Magic without Jayson Tatum is Boston Celtics without Jayson Tatum is 8-2 in the season, regular season. Ironically enough, both of those losses they have suffered have come from Orlando Magic. But you have to put a big asterisk by one of those losses because obviously they played pretty much their G League team. That's what it looked like. Basically, that's what it was. Obviously, Pritchard was playing and some players like that. But the main guys, Porzingis, White, Holiday, of course, Tatum, and everyone else, didn't play. They were rested at the end of the day. So we're gonna talk about that. So first things first, in the first game, it was pretty much what you expect because Orlando Magic came into the game with some game plan. Obviously, they're young, they have nothing to lose, but they came in prepared and on fire. What I mean by that, basically, is the fact that they played the play-in tournament. They played 4 days before the series against Celtics started, and people want to overlook the fact of that they played before, but Celtics had a week, if not a bit more off, which means they only had training, no intense gaming schedule, no nothing. So basically, they were a bit relaxed. Let's just put it that way. They were not in their rhythm, and that obviously I think was one of the main contributors. The fact that, well, it was a closer game than basically it in a way could have and should have been. Obviously, Celtics won 103 against 86, which is obviously it feels like a 17-point gap. It seems a lot. At the same time, in NBA it's nothing, but the game overall was a lot closer than people actually expect if they only look at stats. Obviously, as well, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, both were on fire. They were hitting, obviously, Banchero were hitting threes. They were schooling, to some extent, Celtics to certain measure. But the biggest thing is, obviously, the Celtics. We're going to talk about Celtics. Obviously, with Orlando Magic, as I said, they have everything to gain and nothing to lose. They will do their best, basically, to try at least to take one game away from Celtics, but we will see how that goes, especially at their home court. It's definitely gonna be a much tougher matchup, but we need to talk about the Celtics. Obviously, as I said, they came into the game with extended period off because 1 week it feels like nothing. At the same time, when you play pretty much during the season regularly, every other day, every third day, sometimes every fourth day for some extended period of time, it keeps you in the rhythm. You have your shot, you have your mindset and everything. As soon as you take extended period off, it kind of switches you off a bit because it's something you're not overall accustomed to. Obviously, as they are professional players, they should be accustomed to it, but you could see some rust, right? Obviously, as I said, on the other hand, Orlando Magic played in the play-in tournament, so they were more prepared. They played against Hawks, they lost away, they won at home by more points, so they basically went to face Boston Celtics. Now, if we talk about Jayson Tatum specifically in that game, until he got injured, right? He finished with 17 points, which is for Jayson Tatum's standards is quite low, I actually would argue. Now, the big thing is, if you look at his shooting percentages, it is quite awful. At least that game. And that was all before the injury, by the way. So he got his double-double, 4 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, which overall seems like a semi-decent game if you are an average NBA player, to some extent, right? Or you are above the middle tier. But for Jayson Tatum, rebounds is fine. The points is not there. He should be scoring 25 plus on average every single game. Let's be real. But as you see, he shot 8 out of 22 of the field, which is 36% only. He shot 1 for 8 from 3-point line, which is barely 13%, which to some extent is inexcusable. And he missed all of his free throws, 4 of them. Which basically you could see also during the game, they were clamping up Jayson Tatum quite massively, first of all. And second of all, when he got frustrated, it felt like to some occasions, because he was putting up some rushed and forced shots, which basically were not his thing. They had no business in going in, and they obviously didn't go in, which obviously was very odd for me when I was watching the game. And it also had a lot of questions regarding that. And the other guy, besides Tatum, right, is Kristaps Porzingis. If you look at how the game went, Kristaps Porzingis was totally and utterly, I kid you not, he was clamped up. He shot 1 of 8 from the field. He had 0 out of 2 3-point shots. He shot 75% from the free throw line, but he got 6 boards, but only 5 points. Yes, 4 steals, a block, everything is all that fine and dandy. But this is not what you expect from Kristaps Porzingis. He should be 20 plus 10 on average every single game. And here is the big question. Can he step up? Genuinely, can he step up if Jayson Tatum is not playing? Because they put Wendell Carter Jr. On Kristaps Porzingis. They put also Jonathan Isaac on him. And it worked because Jonathan Isaac, yes, he is not the most mobile, but he could actually guard Kristaps Porzingis on the 3-point line, which took away some of his abilities, some of his chances, and all that stuff. So technically, it all went according to plan. Obviously, nobody also expected for Wagner and also for Banchero to catch such fire, but it worked. But obviously, Celtics are stacked, and it's not a surprise that they arguably are the main favorites, or at least one of the favorites, to basically win the NBA Finals, right? To get to there and win it. And it was lucky that Derek White stepped up. Drew Holiday hit him for some three-pointers on very clutch moments as well. And obviously, Peyton Pritchard, the 6th man of the year, also did his thing. 19 points, 4 of 6 from the 3-point line. They all did their job. They all stepped up in the absence of Kristaps Porzingis, which for me is the big thing. For Celtics to actually go far, obviously, it's very premature. To some extent, it's an overreaction and everything. Because I can basically name this video "Let's Overreact over Celtics" before the game 2 and everything. But they need Kristaps Porzingis clicking. First things first, injury-free, right? But he also needs to be clicking hard. And so hard, he hasn't. He hasn't. In the first game, you could see he got, even when he went into the post against smaller matchups, they were roughening him up. Sometimes when he went into the post, Magic were double teaming him, triple teaming him. To some extent, they were instantly trying to steal the ball. Obviously, he only got 2 turnovers, right? But it doesn't show the full picture. And for me, especially if Jayson Tatum doesn't play and he is not cleared to play, he is one of the guys that need to step up the most, especially after the questionable game he had in the first game, despite the fact that Boston Celtics won. And that for me is the big question mark. What is gonna happen? Because will Jayson Tatum will be cleared to play? If he is, it's all good. But at the same time, let's be real. If he gets to play and everything, and he is not fully healed, it can also risk a further damage for longer and extended period of time for further going into the NBA playoffs, which actually could be more detrimental to Celtics season and Celtics playoffs than anything. So the big question remains, do Celtics rest at least Tatum for 1 game? Because the scans came back fine. He's just put doubtful, so nobody knows what's going to happen. And at the moment, as I'm recording this, it's still unknown, right? Obviously. So do the Celtics risk it for the biscuit in a way and play him if push comes to shove? Or do they basically tell him, take 1 game off, we have the personnel to do the business? Because let's be real, 8-2 in the season, respectable, very respectable without Tatum. 2 losses against obviously Orlando Magic and everything, but one of the games none of them played, so you cannot take that kind of into account because it was, I think, the last game of the season. So ultimately, basically Celtics have a choice. Do they risk it in hopes that he is fine and he doesn't basically mess up his arm for a longer extended period of time, because that is also his shooting arm, which definitely needs to be taken into context? Or they take 1 game off, because everyone's expecting for Celtics to win this series without a shadow of a doubt. The question is, If Orlando Magic manage to steal at least one game, for example this game, right, and they go back to their home court, and then they come back to the TD Garden with it being, for example, 2-2, if they manage to steal one game at home, it's squeaky bum time to some extent for Celtics, I'm not gonna lie. And Celtics sometimes tend to do the things the hard way, not the easy way. So definitely there will be lots of questions to be asked. So, obviously, only time will tell. The game is happening basically 2:30 a.m. my time, so I'm gonna watch it with one eye open, one eye shut, basically, as I'm half asleep, I guess. But yeah, that for me is the big question. Can Porzingis step up? And if Tatum is not playing, will the other players step up? Because let's be real, Jaylen Brown as well, he didn't have the greatest of the games. Porzingis had a shocking game to his standards. Derek White did his thing, which is quite fantastic, let's be real. 30 points, 7 out of 12 from 3-point line. Jrue Holiday, also defensively solid as always. I even managed to hit 75% from the three-point line, 3 out of 4, which is quite amazing for Jrue Holiday, let's be real. And of course with Peyton Pritchard. So the big questions remain. And let me know down in comments below. Would you start Jayson Tatum in this game? Or would you play it safe and trust the team to play one game without him and get the dub? Obviously it's the playoffs, nobody wants to sit on the bench and everything, and playoffs are the time when players play through multiple injuries. It's not a secret. At the same time, long term it could do more harm than good. So let me know in comments what you think. Like the video, subscribe, and let's see how this goes, because obviously very soon, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, there will be another video, whether it's going to be regarding the Bucks or the Celtics with Tatum or without Tatum. It's only time will tell. But for now, I am out, I'm preparing for the game, and hopefully, I'm not gonna lie, Celtics win. Let me know what you think. Peace.